What's up guys, Ghost here, and today I will be answering your Q&A questions that you left for me in the last episode of Wingman. Now the background footage today is an old gem of a game called Dungeon Keeper, and later on in the video I'll switch it to Overwatch, which I've recently gotten into and I'm absolutely loving, by the way. Now I'm sure most of you have heard of Overwatch by now, but for those of you who missed the Dungeon Keeper era, you're basically an evil entity attempting to lure demons into your dungeon by seeing to their needs, much like something like The Sims. Adequate living space, food for them, etc. Stuff like that. Now, only in this game, you're deep underground, as you would indeed expect a dungeon to be, so you have to go mining to venture into the enemy base and also to acquire gold. Now, the more rooms you build and the bigger your dungeon becomes, the more powerful demons you attract until finally you can acquire the appropriately named Horny Reaper. Now, it was created by an old studio named Bullfrog Productions, fronted by a man named Peter Molyneux. You may have heard of him. He also founded Lionhead Studios, and he created the Fable franchise. In any case, there's a little history lesson on Dungeon Keeper for you. It is a lot of fun, and I'm willing to bet you've probably never played a game quite like this, so if you do want to pick it up, it's available over on GOG. I picked it up the other day for $2, I think, along with the Deeper Dungeons expansion, because it happened to be on sale, although I think the regular price is around $6. But it's definitely worth it, in my opinion. Alright, let's get to the questions then. Legit Skills asks, I was wondering how old you are and do you live in the UK? Well, I'm 28 years old. I will be 29 this October. That usually comes to a surprise to some people. Not exactly sure why. Maybe they just think I sound younger for some reason. But yeah, that's how old I am in any case. And do I live in the UK? No, I don't. I am, of course, from the UK. I'm from England. You might be able to tell by the accent. But I actually live in Iceland. And I've lived here since I was 18. So more than 10 years now. Wow, time really does fly. But yeah, I came over here because I actually met an Icelandic girl many years ago. Unfortunately, today we are not together, but I have a girlfriend whom I love very much instead, so it's all good. But that was the original reason that I came here, and I just like the place, man. I haven't gone home since. Okay, next, Coldboy33 asks, Ghost, what is your favourite video on your channel? Well, I have a lot of videos so far, over 400 I think we're up to now, so without actually going back and looking through all of them for this question, off the top of my head, I would probably say the montage that I made called Earth and Air. I believe it was called that. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Some of you guys who are around today, you may have watched that montage. I'll link it down below in the description, though, if you guys want to go and watch it. But the idea with the title Earth and Air was the Earth part was like infantry clips and play, and the Air part was going to be jet clips, because not a lot of people put jet clips in their montages. It's usually sniper stuff, nice shots from a tank, taking out helicopters, RPG shots and that sort of thing. So I wanted to change that up a little bit. I think you guys liked it, so it was a pretty big success, but that's probably the one video I put the most amount of time and effort into, and the one I've sort of, you know, polished the most, let's say. So the next question comes in from Dolan McDoobie, and he says, what is your opinion of Battlefield 4 jets now? Have you gotten over the spring patch nerf? So for those who don't know, maybe have only recently started to play the game, back in the spring, although knowing DICE it was probably more like the summertime, there was a patch that heavily nerfed the attack jets and the stealth jets. So their cannons did much less damage, the JDAMs got nerfed, the TV missiles, the laser guided missiles got nerfed. And then shortly after that, or a few months after that at least, there was another patch which mildly buffed them a little bit against certain vehicles that they were having problems with, such as the scout helicopter. So currently, the attack jets, I think, are okay versus ground. I don't mind the change that you can only drop one JDAM at a time, because it's actually kind of nice having a JDAM every single strafe. Like, pretty much every time you strafe over the battlefield, whether you're going for infantry or some sort of an armoured vehicle, you can drop a JDAM, which is pretty nice. You know, it nets me quite a few infantry kills that way. Of course, it is harder to take out the AA tank now, because you can no longer consecutively drop two JDAMs one after another on the head of the AA tank, which I actually became pretty good at doing and was the easiest way for me to take out the AA. But as for the 30mm cannons, I think they do fine damage to armor. I think they do okay damage against infantry, but it's against enemy jets and aircraft where I feel the attack jet should be buffed up a little bit. It almost feels not worth it to me to go after the scout helicopter. Even sometimes the attack helicopter, even though it's larger, it's more cumbersome, it has less agility, it's a larger target, and therefore is much easier to hit than the scout heli. Sometimes I feel like, why should I bother? You know, I feel like I'm going to dedicate an entire strafe as an attack jet pilot to that particular vehicle, and at the end of that strafe, I may only do 20 or 30 damage. Whereas prior to the spring patch, I was able to outright kill it in one go. So I think they could do with a bit of a buff there. Hopefully, you know, in the next Battlefield game, these kind of things will be rectified. And the stealth jets to me just still feel quite boring. In Battlefield 3, we had 2 fighter jets which could both take out ground targets and both take out air targets. And to me, that was a much more enjoyable experience. Whenever I'm in the stealth jet, half of the time I just feel bored. I don't feel like strafing infantry is a fun thing to do in the stealth jet. Maybe I just suck at it, but it just really feels extremely tedious to me, and I just think, why am I in the stealth jet? I could parachute out of here and just go and take my rifle and kill far more infantry with that than I can in this huge vehicle of destruction. So I would like to see them either do away with the stealth jets in the next Battlefield game altogether and just have 2 of the same kind of jet that were capable of taking out air vehicles and ground targets, or at least change the stealth jets so that they were a little bit more viable against the ground. Alright, next up, so Lime Vader, nice name by the way, he asks, Ghost, will you ever consider a meet and greet with fans? Yeah, definitely, that would be something I would be totally up for. I don't really consider my channel to be anywhere near big enough to do meet and greets or, you know, sell t-shirts, like sell merchandise and that kind of thing, stuff that bigger YouTubers or streamers generally partake in. I kind of feel like if I would organise a meet and greet in a central European location, let's say Germany, Frankfurt, I feel like maybe one person would show up. It could well be that nobody shows up, and I would have wasted a hell of a lot of my time. So I'm not really gonna, you know, head over to any country in Europe just for a meet and greet, because the chance of anyone actually turning up is probably very little. But if any of you guys happen to be in Iceland, the capital here is very small. You can get from one side of it to the other in about 15 or 20 minutes. So, you know, if any of you guys happen to be here, hit me up on Twitter, see if I'm out and about, and maybe we can meet up for a chat. Now, I would totally be up for that. Abu Ash Samar says, any chances you're going to collaborate with other YouTubers like Level Cap, X Factor, Matimio, Jack Franks? Well, in all honesty, on YouTube, when it comes to collaboration, there is one primary reason that people do that, and that is to help each other grow their channels, to promote one another. So, as you can imagine, there really isn't much in it for a big YouTuber like Jack Franks or Level Cap to pair up with me, because I'm not really going to be able to give them any promotion at all. But they will be able to give me a hell of a lot. I mean, it's not like I didn't try when I was a smaller YouTuber. I definitely sent them messages on YouTube and stuff and said, hey, how about, you know, something to do with jets? One thing I've always wanted to do is a sort of version of Squad Up, but a vehicular focus one. So, you know, perhaps me in a jet, and then I thought about music in the stealth jet, and there's another guy called AKA Art who's a very good tanker. It would be awesome to have him like in a tank, and then maybe somebody else in a scout heli, and have this squad of people who could be playing in vehicles and over live comms at the same time. That would be really, really cool. I've always imagined the guy in the tank being able to call in an airstrike effectively from the person playing in the attack jet, and I think that would be interesting to watch, but it's just something that's hard to set up. Making YouTube videos for me is already hard enough as it is, and having to find a specific time to play with other people when they have time just makes things even more difficult. Okay, so moving on, the next question actually comes in from multiple different people, and I'm going to throw all of these comments that you guys left up on the screen at the moment. T2M Remix says, what are the top 5 things you would change with Battlefield 4 if you could? Yannick says, hi Ghost, what is your 2 favourite weapons in the game? What do you think DICE should take with them from Battlefield 4 into a new game? PJP says, what are some things you'd like to see in Battlefield 5 regarding air versus helis and infantry lock-ons? How would you balance it? B-Junkie asks, how do you think the next Battlefield game should handle teamwork, seeing as their teamwork initiative for Battlefield 4 pretty much stopped after a small update? And Raptor the MLG Ace asks, would you like to have more armies for the next Battlefield? So I figured I'd group the answers together for all of those, since they're all really about what I'd like to see changed in Battlefield 4 or what I'd like to see in the next Battlefield game. So first thing that I think would be cool, obviously as a jet lover, is the two-seater jets. Everyone has been asking for two-seater jets. People hope they will be in Battlefield 3. They hope they would be in Battlefield 4 because of course they were in Battlefield 2. So if we are indeed going to get a straight sequel, we're going to get Battlefield 5. It's going to be a modern day military sim or shooter, not really much of a sim I suppose. Then it would be really cool to get the two-seater jets. Maybe some special abilities like target painting. I would love that as well. When I saw flares in Battlefield 4, I thought that the use of the flares were going to be sort of close air support. You could throw them down on the floor, the attack jet or some sort of vehicle would come in and do a bombing run with JDAMs. Like, how cool would that be if you could actually know where the munitions were needed and when? But no, it just turns out that flares have pretty much no role in Battlefield 4 whatsoever. So that's one thing I would like to see. Next, I would maybe like to see a mix-up in the vehicle meta. I did put out a video the other day talking about the rumour about the next Battlefield game maybe being based in the World War I era. I have to say, like I said in that video, it's probably pretty unlikely, and like everyone else says, I think it is likely that it's going to be based in the modern day. Now, the only problem for this with mixing up the vehicle meta means they don't really have much to go at. If it was based in the future, like 2143, they could play a little bit around with it and invent new vehicles, new variants, like they did with 2142. You know, they brought in hover tanks, they had walkers instead of jets, effectively. That was quite cool. Of course, I'm not advocating they don't have jets, because you guys know me, I love the jets. Well, I suppose I would just like to see something new, you know, not just stealth jet, attack jet, scout heli, attack helicopter, tanks, LAVs, and that's it. I would like to see some sort of new dynamic in there to change up the rock, paper, scissors play between all of the vehicles and the infantry players. Or at the very least, do away with the stealth jets and make things go back to the way they were in Battlefield 3. Next, I would revert commander mode to the way it used to be in previous Battlefield titles, or just get rid of it altogether. It just didn't work in Battlefield 4. It didn't really bring your team together, it didn't make anybody more coordinated, and at least for me, in my experience, being the commander was just downright boring. It wasn't engaging, it wasn't interesting for me, and I think to this day, I've only ever gone on the commander mode once or twice, because why would I want to do that when I can run around and actually be a player within the match? It just didn't really work. It sounded cool when they announced it for Battlefield 4, but yeah, I would prefer to see things going back to the old way where you could actually play as a soldier on the ground, but you were the commander at the same time. You could bring up a UI with ordnance strikes and that sort of thing. I would much rather have it that way. So yeah, commander mode definitely needs some improvement. The next thing is better micro destruction and general level destructibility. Of course, in Battlefield 4, we got Levolution. We all know how that turned out. It looks pretty cool, but it doesn't really improve your gameplay experience overall when you've played the map time and time again. And if you look at a game like Rainbow Six Siege, that is really one of the niches that Rainbow Six has at the moment within the shooter community. Is the level of destruction is like nothing we've seen before in any other shooter. And you guys, if you've played the game, if you have the game, I don't have the game, but I played the beta, it really makes things interesting. It makes you think about the shooter in a completely different way, and if they had a bit of that in the next Battlefield game, that would be really awesome. Also, just some of the destructibility like they had in Battlefield 3, where you could shoot the sides of the buildings in maps like Sen Crossing. You could cause a rubble drop. You could often get like 5, 6, 7 multi-kills by rubble dropping on clusters of infantry. That was awesome. Next, I would change Premium. I know I said this also in a video the other day that I did about the Season Pass for Star Wars Battlefront. I would change Premium and take the maps out of there because it is segregating the community into different groups. People who have Premium and people who don't. And it also means that the people who have spent that money on Premium to get those maps early, later on down the line, like for instance now in Battlefield 4, cannot find the servers to play on those maps because they just aren't as popular because everyone doesn't have access to them. So I would like to see the maps just be free and something else put in their place instead of Premium. Like I said in the other video about Battlefront, I know EA aren't going to budge on the pricing of Premium, so their only option would be to put something in there instead of the maps that would still please the player base. And the last thing I suppose would be some more meaningful gadgets. There are an awful lot of gadgets in Battlefield 4, some in Battlefield 3, but even more in Battlefield 4 that really don't serve much of a purpose. I think you'll find that almost everybody goes with the same gadget loadout, or they maybe have 2 gadget loadouts for each class, and that's it. There are so many gadgets that go unused in the game. I would like to see them just completely strip away all of the crap, you know, all of the stuff they just put in there in the DLCs just to have some sort of a content to give to people, and just put something meaningful in there, something people are going to use, something that will change up the meta of the game. That's really what it should be. When a new expansion comes out and a gadget is introduced into the game, it should change up the meta. It didn't really do that in Battlefield 4. It was just either completely OP or not at all. Really underwhelming, nobody ever used it, or if it was OP, then it basically just got nerfed until nobody used it once again. And the final question today, again, I'll put all of those comments on the screen because it was actually asked by multiple people, and it's basically what made me decide to start doing YouTube. Well, in all honesty, I kind of have difficulty remembering it now. I mean, I've always been a huge gamer. I seem to remember I was playing Battlefield 3, I was starting to really get into the game, and at the time I was probably watching somebody like Level Cap, and I think back then he only had around 50,000 subs, right? And he started making this loadout series, which of course really helped in exploding his channel, and in the early days most of his content was about tips and tricks for Battlefield 3. I guess I sort of looked at myself and I said, well, I'm pretty decent in the jets, and everyone else seems to be not very good, so, you know, why couldn't I do that? Why couldn't I make a video with some tips and tricks? Because as I was watching his videos, I was thinking, well, I have a video I could make about this and that and the other. And I thought, well, you know, there's no reason I shouldn't, so I'll just do it. I asked my girlfriend about it, and she said, yeah, just totally, just, like, go for it. I mean, why not? And I guess that's how I got started. And, you know, since the day I started, I thought my YouTube channel would be very different to how it is today. And I've really learned a lot along the way about having a channel. And I suppose really the only way you can get good at doing something is if you do it a lot and you learn along the way. Some people do get lucky with YouTube. They have their channels explode, partly through good content and partly through a factor of luck and timing. For me, obviously my channel hasn't absolutely exploded, but I have been getting there, climbing up slowly but steadily, so I'm incredibly grateful for that. And in the future, I probably will be expanding into other games. Overwatch is a game that I really want to cover. I do have the closed beta access, and when the game comes out, I think it's going to be pretty big. And I can already feel by playing the beta the amount of skill and depth within the game. So I feel there's quite a lot of tips and tricks style content that I could put out for the game there, at least if I get good enough at it. But do not fret if you're here for Battlefield. I will, of course, be all over the new Battlefield game. So there you have it, guys. This video was pretty damn long. I think it's going to be around 20 minutes here looking at the timer on the recording once I've finished editing and clipping everything down. But I didn't want to shortchange you guys. I wanted to give you some real answers and try to elaborate as much as possible on your questions, not just give you the shortest version. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And I will let you guys know next time I'm going to do a Q&A. I won't say ask questions down below because I honestly don't know when I will have time to make another one of these. I prefer to leave it a few more months than that and, you know, let some new subscribers come in, let things pile up a little bit. But when it does happen, fear not, I will let you know at the end of a video or the start of a video. So thank you guys very much for watching, and thank you for sticking with the channel. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I will see you guys in the next video.